The conference room fell silent as Elena Chen stepped to the window, her reflection sharp against the Manhattan skyline. 37 years old, CEO of a Fortune 500 tech company, and utterly devastatingly alone. She'd built an empire on algorithms and innovation. But somewhere between closing billion-dollar deals and revolutionizing cloud computing, she'd forgotten how to build a life. Tonight, staying late again in her glass tower, she had no idea that everything was about to change because of a man with kind eyes, calloused hands, and a mop bucket. Elena had always believed love was a luxury she couldn't afford. Her parents had immigrated from Taiwan with nothing but dreams and determination, working 18-hour days at their small restaurant, to give her opportunities they never had. She'd watched her mother's hands crack from washing dishes, seen her father's shoulders hunch from years of carrying heavy supply boxes. Their sacrifice had forged her into steel, brilliant, driven, and impenetrable. By 25, she'd founded TechVision. By 30, she'd taken it public. By 35, she was featured on magazine covers with headlines like "The Woman Who Never Sleeps" and "Silicon Valley's Ice Queen." The nicknames didn't bother her. She wore them like armor. Romance? That was for people with time to waste, for those who hadn't watched their parents sacrifice everything for success. She'd been proposed to twice, once by a venture capitalist who saw her as a merger opportunity, once by a tech journalist who wanted an exclusive story more than a wife. She'd declined both without hesitation and never looked back. Until the night she met Marcus Thompson. It was nearly midnight on a Thursday when her executive assistant finally left, giving Elena one of those concerned looks that said more than words could. Elena waved her off with promises she wouldn't keep about leaving soon, about getting rest, about remembering to eat. But as the office emptied and silence settled over the 42nd floor, she found herself staring at financial projections that blurred together, her mind too exhausted to process the numbers she usually devoured like poetry. She decided to walk, just down to the lobby and back to clear her head. The building was nearly empty, her heels echoing through marble, hallways designed to impress visitors, who only saw them during daylight hours. She was so lost in thought about the merger proposal from a German conglomerate that she didn't notice the wet floor sign until her foot slipped, her body tilting backward in that terrible slow-motion moment before a fall. But she didn't hit the ground. Strong arms caught her, steadying her with surprising gentleness. "Whoa, I got you. You're safe." Elena looked up into the warmest brown eyes she'd ever seen. The man was tall, with dark skin and silver threading through his close-cropped hair. He wore a janitor's uniform with his name embroidered on the chest, Marcus. His hands, still supporting her elbow, were careful, respectful, releasing her the moment she found her balance. "I'm so sorry about the floor," he said immediately. "I put the sign up, but I should have put it more in the walking path." "Are you okay?" She should have thanked him quickly and walked away. That's what the Elena Chen who'd spent 30 years avoiding. Complications would have done, but something made her pause. Maybe it was the genuine concern in his voice, or the way he'd apologized for her not seeing his warning sign, taking responsibility that wasn't his to take. Maybe it was simply that she was too tired to maintain her usual walls. "I'm fine. Thank you for catching me." She smiled, surprising herself. "And it's not your fault. I wasn't watching where I was going." "Long night?" he asked, and there was no judgment in the question, just understanding. "Is there any other kind?" She meant it as a joke, but it came out sad. Something flickered in his expression, recognition, perhaps, of someone else who understood long nights for different reasons. "I hear that. I work here nights, then I'm up with my daughter for school in the morning. Sometimes I forget what it's like to sleep more than 4 hours." "You have a daughter?" The question escaped before she could stop it, and Elena felt heat rise to her cheeks. She never asked personal questions. She deliberately avoided learning about her employees, lives beyond what was professionally necessary. It was cleaner that way, more efficient. But Marcus's face transformed when he talked about his daughter, lighting up with such pure love that Elena felt something crack in her chest. "Sophie, she's 8. Smartest kid in her class, though I might be biased. She wants to be an astronaut. So we've been building a model of the solar system out of foam balls and paint. Our apartment looks like a craft store exploded. But you should see how proud she is. Elena found herself smiling genuinely for the first time in months. "That sounds wonderful." "She's my whole world," Marcus said simply. Then he seemed to catch himself, remembering who he was talking to. "But I should let you get back to your evening. Ms. Chen, just please watch out for wet floors." He knew her name. Of course he did. Her face was probably on corporate communications every other week. But the way he said it held none of the usual calculation, none of the networking angles or subtle attempts at currying favor. He spoke to her like she was just another person working late. Which she was, except nobody had treated her that way in years. "Elena," she said. "Please call me Elena." Over the following weeks, Elena found herself leaving her office later and later, timing her evening walks to when Marcus would be working on her floor. She told herself it was about clearing her head, about the health benefits of regular movement. She didn't examine, too, closely why she'd started, wearing less intimidating outfits in the evenings, swapping her power suits for softer sweaters and comfortable pants. They talked while he cleaned, conversations that meandered from Sophie's school, projects to Elena's memories of helping her, parents at their restaurant, from Marcus's poetry hobby to Elena's secret love of terrible reality TV. He told her about his wife, who died from cancer 3 years ago, leaving him alone with a 5-year-old and medical debt that still kept him working 2 jobs. He spoke about Sarah with such tenderness that Elena felt tears prick her eyes. Not from jealousy, but from witnessing what real love looked like. "She made me promise I wouldn't stop living," Marcus said one night, his hands pausing on the vacuum cleaner. "That I'd find joy again, find love again. I haven't been ready yet, probably still aren't, but Sophie needs to see her dad as a whole person, not just someone going through the motions." "You're an incredible father," Elena said quietly. "Sophie's lucky to have you. I'm lucky to have her. She's taught me that success isn't about how much money you make or how high you climb. It's about the bedtime stories, the scraped knees you kiss better, the way her whole face lights up when she learns something new." He looked at Elena with those knowing eyes. "You know what real success is? Being there, being present, being someone's whole world and letting them be yours." The word struck Elena like a physical blow. When was the last time someone's face had lit up to see her? Not her title, not her wealth, not what she could do for them. Just her? 3 months into their nightly conversations, Elena did something unprecedented. She asked Marcus if he'd like to have coffee with her. Not in the building, not while he worked, but actually go somewhere together. She stumbled over the words like a teenager, her usual articulate confidence abandoning her completely. Marcus smiled but shook his head. "Elena, I appreciate the offer more than you know, but I can't afford to lose this job. And I'm pretty sure there are rules about fraternization between executives and service staff." "I'll change the rules," she said impulsively. No." He said it gently but firmly. "I don't want special treatment. I don't want to be someone's pity case or diversity initiative or," he trailed off, struggling with words. "I see how people look at me. Rich CEO and the janitor? That's not a story that ends well for people like me." Elena felt something fierce rise in her chest. "I don't pity you. I envy you. You have something real, something that matters. I have an empire built on code and contracts, but I go home to an empty penthouse every night and can't remember the last time I felt anything. You make me feel again. You make me want to be present instead of just productive." The silence stretched between them, heavy with possibility and fear. "I care about you, Elena," Marcus finally said. "More than I probably should, more than is smart for someone in my position. But if we do this, I need to know you understand what you're asking for. I come with complications. A daughter who has to be my priority. Debt that'll take years to clear. An ex-in-law who's always looking for reasons to say I'm an unfit father. I work with my hands because it's honest work that lets me be there for Sophie, not because I'm ambitious about climbing any ladder. I can't give you expensive dates or exotic vacations. I'm not a project you can fix or a novelty you can try out." "I don't want to fix you," Elena said, her voice breaking. "I want you to teach me. Teach me how to be present, how to measure success in bedtime stories instead of stock prices, how to build a life that actually matters." They had their first date at a diner near Marcus's apartment, where Sophie joined them with wide eyes and careful politeness. Elena, who'd negotiated with heads of state and tech titans, found herself more nervous facing an 8-year-old with questions about whether she knew any real astronauts and if she'd ever been to space camp. "Daddy says you're really smart," Sophie announced, dipping her French fry in ketchup with serious concentration. "Are you as smart as him?" "He helps me with all my homework, even the hard math." Elena looked at Marcus, whose ears had gone red. "Your dad's smart?" "The smartest," Sophie said loyally. "He knows everything about poetry and stars and how to make the perfect pancakes. He reads me stories in funny voices and builds things with me and never makes me feel dumb when I don't understand something." "Then he's smarter than me," Elena said honestly. "Because I know a lot about computers and business, but I don't know anything about the important stuff. Maybe you both could teach me." Sophie considered this gravely, then nodded. "Okay, but you have to come to my science fair next month. Daddy's helping me build a volcano, and it's going to be the best one ever." Elena went to the science fair. She also went to Sophie's soccer games, her school play where she played tree number 3 with tremendous dedication, her birthday party at the local pizza place. She reorganized her schedule around a child's calendar, discovering that the world didn't fall apart when she left the office at 5:30. She learned to braid hair through YouTube tutorials, to mediate playground disputes, to read The Paper Bag Princess with all the right character voices. The board noticed the changes. Her executive team whispered. Trade publications ran speculation pieces about whether Elena, Chen, was losing her edge, stepping back, preparing to sell. Her inbox filled with concerned messages from investors and rivals alike. Sensing blood in the water, Elena called an emergency board meeting 3 months after that first date. "I'm restructuring my role," she announced to the 12 faces around the conference table. "I'll remain CEO, but I'm implementing a 4-day work week for myself and proposing we roll it out company-wide. I'm also establishing a program to provide full benefits and career development opportunities for all contract workers, including custodial staff. And I'm increasing our parental leave policy to 6 months paid for all parents, regardless of gender." The protest came immediately. The costs, the precedent, the signal it would send to competitors. But Elena had spent 30 years learning to negotiate, to persuade, to win. She came armed with data showing that companies with better work-life balance had higher productivity, lower turnover, and more innovation. She had projections, case studies, and a determination that reminded everyone why she'd built this empire in the first place. "I've spent 30 years putting profit over people," she said quietly, silencing the room. "Over my own humanity. I'm not asking us to sacrifice success. I'm proposing we redefine it. Because what's the point of building something if we destroy ourselves doing it? What's the point of wealth if we have no time to enjoy it, no people to share it with, no lives beyond our office walls?" The vote was close, but it passed. Within a year, TechVision became known not just for its innovations, but for its humanity. Turnover dropped by 40%, employee satisfaction soared, and profits, defying all the doom predictions, increased as productivity, and creativity flourished among workers who actually had time to rest, to think, to live. Marcus and Elena married on a Saturday morning at the same courthouse where her parents had become citizens. 40 years earlier, with Sophie as the flower girl and Elena's aging parents beaming in the front row. There was no media, no society photographers, no celebrity guests, just family, real friends, and Marcus's poetry group singing a slightly off-key rendition of At Last on their wedding night in the modest house they'd bought together in Queens, because Sophie's school was there, because Marcus's community was there. Elena looked at her husband's sleeping face and felt something she'd never experienced. In her glass tower, peace. She thought about the Elena who'd almost fallen that night, who'd been caught by gentle hands and gentler words, who'd learned that the strongest foundation isn't built on ambition but on love. She'd spent 30 years single, building an empire on her own determination. It had taken just one moment, one man with kind eyes and a daughter who needed bedtime stories, to teach her that success measured in spreadsheets was nothing compared to a life, measured in shared mornings, scraped knees, and someone whose face lit up just because you walked through the door. The next morning, Sophie jumped on their bed at 7 a.m., demanding pancakes. Marcus groaned good-naturedly and headed to the kitchen. Elena followed, trading her silk pajamas for an apron, ready to learn how to make pancakes the way her new family liked them. Imperfect, uneven, and made with love. She'd been a CEO for 12 years. But this messy, chaotic, beautiful morning was the first day of her real life.